that come together and make for a strong ticket in the state of Texas. So we have made it very public that on 12/8, which I said over and over and over, that I would make my decision public about what it is that I'm going to do. For those of you who haven't been keeping up with all the drama down in Texas with our lines, that kind of stuff, we won, and then Alito was like, not so fast. So the Supreme Court is supposed to make a decision anytime now about what these lines are going to look like. If it's going to be the lines that I currently have run in for the last 2 terms, or if they are going to be the very much racially gerrymandered lines as outlined in the 160-page opinion by a Trump appointee. Just saying. So we are going to hopefully get something from the Supreme Court soon, because again, that deadline to file, and no one knows where exactly they're supposed to run without actually being able to have something from the court about what the lines are going to be. Interesting news this week was that one of the California Republicans decided he's just going to run for Congress in Texas. Yes, you heard me right. And we will see how Republicans respond to, say, a Californian coming into Texas trying to run to get back to Congress. But that's a whole other issue, whole other drama. Right now, I was sitting on my phone and I was trying to figure out if the polls have closed yet in Tennessee. Many of you know that this special election is taking place with Afton Bain. She and I had did an event together. And we know that, the DNC chair went down there to do something for her. We know that the vice president walked around Fisk and made sure that she amplified the awareness around the special election, as well as, I believe, AOC ended up doing something with Afton. I feel like one other person, Zach, you may remember. Pramila, I think it was Jayapal, did something with Afton as well. So, and Al Gore. Okay. All right. It seems like, the whole team decided to try to support her candidacy. Now, this will be the real test of how fed up people are. So speaking of fed up, I want to talk about how idiotic the administration is, which I know there's a lot that we can talk about. But if you will recall, and I've not been live to talk about this, I've been super swamped, but I have personally talked to my colleagues, specifically in the House, and expressed to them, that I have their back. So many of you, I'm sure, have watched the video of sitting members of the House and Senate that basically did nothing but reiterate what is actually contained within the confines of the limitations and the obligations that exist with serving this country and serving in the military. That's it. That's it. Just like basically like, you know what, let me look at the book, got it, and recorded a video. And the next thing you know, they want them court-martialed. Well, there's only one person that could be subject to it. They just made this whole outrage. How dare you? And then literally like a week and a half later, they're trying to point fingers because they know that the allegations of war crimes are real. I will tell you that I personally believe that there may be more than just kind of one incident that people should be looking into, because I don't know where it is okay to just consistently bomb or just blow up boats in the water just because. Like, I mean, it's just, yeah, no, that sounds like murder to me, but like, I don't know, maybe let's do some investigating. Maybe there's something more there. But just because you think somebody is a drug trafficker, it's not really how that works. I'm just saying, even if it's true, it's not how it works. And of course, we've heard allegations that a number of people that have been on some of these boats were legitimately like fishermen. So who knows, right? Because when you blow up all the evidence, it's a little difficult. So interestingly enough, the president then tried to throw Hegseth under the bus. And then Hegseth now is trying to throw other people under the bus But y'all were just talking about those elected officials who have served our country valiantly and then reminding people of their oath because they are never to follow an illegal order. And now you're saying, well, if the order was illegal, it's y'all's fault because y'all fought. Like, it is crazy. And honestly, I just don't know how we got here. I don't know how we got to the point that people in this country could continue to support such idiocy and cruelty at every single turn. That is what they're doing. And I want to be clear. These types of moves do not make us safer at home. They actually make us a lot less safe. So it is important that no matter who you are, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, and so I will applaud those Republicans that have said, both in the House and the Senate, that it is time to investigate. I applaud them because I've been waiting on Republicans to just kind of get to the place where they're like, right is right, wrong is wrong. Again, I continue to say over and over, a lot of this stuff isn't right versus left. It's right versus wrong. And the final point that I'll make before I'll go to some of y'all's questions, because I really just wanted to check in because I've been MIA for a while and we had votes early today. So I had a little bit of time. So I wanted to check in with y'all. What was the last point I was going to make? I forgot now. I don't know. But I hope you're all checking and making sure you are registered to vote no matter where you are. Obviously, we know that they are trying to play crazy games. Again, as we wait on the results for Tennessee 7, it was insane to hear that they were sending out these, I don't know if it was, I think they were sending out mailers of some sort. They were sending something that was in paper form out and or doing recordings saying the wrong election day to Democrats, like, hey, go vote for Afton, and giving them the wrong election day, while at the same time basically threatening Republicans to show up and vote and saying everybody will know your record and doing this very aggressive stuff. So the Republicans have shown us more than once who they are. And until they decide to grow a backbone and again, just kind of stand for what's right and wrong, I think we're going to continue to be concerned about the economy. We're going to continue to be concerned about education and accessibility. As we know, they've decided to reclassify a number of professional degrees, or I should say declassify. That's the way I'm going to say it. They decided to declassify a number of those degrees, devaluing those degrees after people have gone out and ascertained them, and limiting accessibility to those degrees by declassifying them, because then you aren't able to gain as much access to financial aid to get those degrees. So I'm going to see what questions we've got, and then I'm going to let y'all go. John is asking, what's a good way to convince someone to vote that doesn't see the point? This is a great question. So I think, number one, you should always know your audience. For those of you that don't know, I was a business major with an emphasis in finance, but I immediately went into marketing while I was going through law school. And as a business major, we always had to take marketing classes. And so one of the things that they always told you is your first job is to determine who your audience is. So number one, find out why is it that this person doesn't believe in voting. Maybe they don't know what they get with voting, right? So find out what their values are. Like, voting is about values and whether or not you want somebody that shares those values. So if John isn't concerned about affordability, then that may not be the way to go. But if he is concerned about affordability, then it is a great time and a great opportunity to explain to him that things are only more expensive because of these unilaterally invoked illegal tariffs that the president decided to engage in. And so some people would be like, okay, but he president, you know, until we still got 3 years and some change. God bless us. Hallelujah. You know, they may say, well, we still have him. But if you have a House and or a Senate that's like, player, that's our lane, and they decide to check him, then maybe we don't have to worry about this. So you can explain that. There are people that care about things that are maybe a little bit closer to home, whether they are concerned about how certain businesses are zoned around them, right? Whether it's that shingles plant or whatever polluter is around them, like maybe it's that issue, maybe it's healthcare, right? And so talking about healthcare, but you have to find out what somebody's values are and what it is that matters to them, and then you have to connect the dots for them. I don't think that you should ever kind of go up to anybody and make them feel bad for like not really seeing the point, because part of like the goal right now is to make people feel helpless and hopeless, and you want to empower people. So I don't really believe in beating people over the head and be like, this is what you got to do, right? I think that it is more important that you really just educate them and connect the dots about what it is that they care most about, and how electing the right or wrong person has the ability to truly impact their lives. We've got Marta wants to know what's happening with my district. I have no idea, Marta, child. Okay. So my district was preserved in its current state per an order that was handed down, where it was a 2-1 majority in the 3-judge federal panel out of the El Paso court. So they said, listen, they running on these lines until we go through the full kind of trial on all the issues. But preliminarily, it looks like this may deprive people of their voices. Okay. Then after that came out, the Republicans in Texas immediately filed an emergency motion to the Supreme Court, directly to the Supreme Court. And Alito says, well, wait a minute now, hold up. So right now, currently, we're on hold. We're waiting for an opinion from that court. There were responsive briefs that were due. Those briefs were due not this Monday, but last Monday. So the court has had those responsive briefs filed, along with what we call like friend of the court briefs. Those were also filed as of not this Monday that just passed, but the prior Monday. And we still do not have an order from the court on what lines we're running from. If we were to not have any order, I guess technically with the stay in place, that means that the new 5 seats that the Republicans stole would be what takes effect. But I don't know. And filing is 6 days away. Yeah, it is a wild time to be elected on the federal level in the state of Texas. And Juan is asking, what can we do with the election still a whole year away? And how can I know my vote is actually going to count? That is a very good question. So Juan, I don't know where you're from. Every state is a little different. So even though we'll have federal elections that are taking place all around the country, the elections themselves are administered by the states. And so every state, which is why we needed the Freedom to Vote Act, so that we could democratize this a little bit. Every state is different about who can access the ballot box and how they can access the ballot box and what happens when you access the ballot box. So the best thing that I can tell you is that it's really important that you are up to speed with what takes place in your state. So states like California, they have a system where you're able to see that they've received your ballot. You're able to kind of check all of that out. You have other states that allow for the ability to kind of monitor in some way as they're going through the counting process. There's just a lot of different ways, but I can tell you that vote by mail is an option that I think, as many people that are able to vote by mail should always feel like it is a safe thing to do. Now, you got to know that the post office ain't necessarily the fastest. So I would say make sure if you're doing that you do it and you do it in plenty of time. But it's really convenient for those of us that have to go to work and we live in a state that doesn't make election day a holiday. So that's number one. So figure out kind of what it is in your state. Number two about that, I would say, between now and election day, like the midterms, I think it's important to find out what other elections are taking place. So we know in different places, they've got city elections, they've got county elections, they've got state elections. So find out what's going on. And also decide to get engaged. I'm sitting online, I'm talking to y'all, and this is a form of engagement. But just know that like your skills, whatever they are useful no matter where you are in any campaign. So find a candidate that really kind of gets you going. What I'll say is that I was outspent when I first ran for the state house. And the one thing I couldn't be was outworked. And it wasn't me as an individual, it was a collective. And so we had over 300 volunteers for a state house race, which was unheard of. But these volunteers made it possible for us to beat back 5 times as much money. And it allowed us to really get our message across. So never, ever doubt that you can put in enough. If it is participating with a campaign that is far away from you, or if it's participating in a campaign that is near you. We need people that can always be event planners. We need people that are graphic experts. We need people that are great on social media. We need people that can help us raise money. We need people to donate money. We need people to organize people on the grounds, organize people on the phones, organize people to send out text messages. We need all these things and more. So never doubt what it is that you can contribute, and just know that there's something for all of us to do. And I think if we all start to kind of look at this and say, this is on all of us, and not just on, say, whatever 1 or 2 candidates are running, but it's on all of us to do this work, then we'll win. We did really well on November 4th, and I'm expecting great results no matter what happens today in Tennessee 7. We don't have anything else? Okay. Sammy wants to know, how should Democrats be talking to constituents about affordability with Christmas season coming up? Now, according to who, affordability is a Democratic hoax. No, I think seriously, this is about like understanding your audience. So I think if we're talking very generally, we should be talking about the fact that the tax credits for the Affordable Care Act, those tax subsidies, that they are about to expire, which means that no matter what your financial situation is, it just got a little worse if you are getting your healthcare from the marketplace. So I think that's number one. And that means you may have less money for childcare, or less money for school, or less money for food. It just means less money somewhere else as it relates to that. In addition to that, I think that we've not really spent a lot of time on housing. This is something that the vice president really spent a lot of time kind of campaigning on. But housing is quite ridiculous in all ways, whether you're trying to buy a home. And I think the fact that this administration is throwing around the idea that we do 50-year loans to make housing more affordable, I think that we should engage in conversations and educate people about why that's such a bad idea, for sure. So I think we can have those conversations. I think that we also need to talk about the reality surrounding food and food security. I think literally we should have some of the images of the people that were lined up, the over 40 million people, approximately 42 million people that are on SNAP benefits, and talk about how that relates to all of us. So, some people look at this and they say, oh, well, I'm not on SNAP. So like, how does that impact me? It doesn't impact me. It does. Because in order for that grocery store to stay open, now they've lost whatever stream of revenue that they would have received from the people that are on SNAP benefits. That means to keep that grocery store open. that means that your prices potentially have to go up. That also means that our farmers who are now filing for bankruptcy, there's less farms. That means there's less supply. With less supply, that means rising cost, right? So we're looking at a multi-layered cost issue when it comes to food. And I think if we can connect the farmer to the person that is literally trying to eat and cannot afford it, and we're taking money out of their pockets so that they can eat, and we're also taking money out of the pockets of the farmers, I think that it's a message that kind of resonates no matter where you are, urban America, rural America. We all got to eat. That's just the reality. And whether you receive SNAP benefits or not, we all are impacted by the disastrous decisions that they've made around SNAP benefits. I know that a lot of people saw where they refused to fully fund SNAP, even though, well, they didn't have the funds to fully fund, but the emergency funds that were available, they decided not to release those funds to people that needed to eat. What we've not talked about is in the big ugly bill, they made these huge cuts as it relates to SNAP benefits. So there are going to be more people that are out in the cold as it relates to SNAP benefits in general because of what they did in the big ugly bill. So yeah, I think talking about everyday things like food, I think that that's really kind of an easy win no matter where you are. Yeah. Let's see. Rachel says, we've seen 2 women run into issues with gaining admittance into hospitals, while in labor in recent weeks, including one Black woman in North Texas. What can Congress do to ensure reproductive health care is protected? Well, I can tell you they could start by actually acknowledging that there's a problem. And frankly, they don't. They don't acknowledge their role in this problem. They don't want to talk about disparities as it relates to how certain women are treated. We know the numbers as it relates to the maternal mortality rates of Black women. Black women are 3 times more likely to die attempting to bring life into this world. Simply, I guess, because they are Black. The biases have been documented. And, the fact that we are seeing this, we saw these episodes, right, play out on camera where literally these women are in pain. Now, I don't know what they thought was going on. Like, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. As someone who's done criminal defense work, I've had people, I will say this, I've had people that show up to hospitals. They know how to get certain drugs, okay? That's not what this is, though. Like, you're talking about 2 women that are clearly pregnant. And we're talking about, I believe at least, I don't know if one or both of them were turned away without even being examined. Like, they're presenting and literally they're being ignored. And then there are people that try to pretend as if we're making this stuff up. This is real. The numbers and the data are real. And the video footage is real. And these lawsuits that these hospitals are about to catch are real as well. And so I will say that, when the legal system works the way that it's supposed to, that is why lawsuits are really important, because then next thing you know, there's a change in certain people's tunes because they've been hit in the pocket. And unfortunately, a lot of people in this country only respond to green. So that's number 1. Number 2, whether it's the momnibus that Lauren Underwood has filed, or whether we come up with creative solutions around those hospital systems that are receiving federal dollars and coming up with at least reporting mechanisms that require them to report certain things, because sometimes people change their act if they know that there's documentation around what's going on. So there's a lot of different ways that we could do this, because we would have to tie federal dollars somehow down to them, in my opinion, to get anything done. But if you've noticed, we're not getting very much done with the Republicans. Like, they're not trying to help people. So, I don't really see anything happening anytime soon. But as they used to say on Game of Thrones, winter is coming. Listen, midterms are coming. So we will be fiercely pushing forward. And I encourage you to look at, say, the Dem Women Caucus, and look at some of the bills and things that we're trying to like pass, we know that all we can do is basically like file the bills. We know that these bills will not make it to the floor with MAGA Mike as the speaker. But you can at least see and get an idea of what our agenda will look like with a Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, and with hopefully a Senate that is a Democratic majority. And then it's just a matter of, if Trump starts vetoing stuff that ends up on his desk or not. But also, I just want y'all to understand this too, because when I was in the state house, I was always a big inside outside girl. I knew what was happening inside, and I worked my inside politics. But I always had teams on the outside to apply pressure. And so I want you to know that pressure campaigns are real. I also want you to know that voting and aggressively working to get people out of office is very powerful. You notice that after November 4th, some people's tunes are starting to change, because it's one thing to get the phone calls. It's another thing for people to actually show up to the polls and be like, okay, so you want to play with me? I got something for that, right? I mean, have you been watching the number of resignations that are coming from the Republican side of the aisle? Like, they feel like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. They've got an administration that's not working with them, does not care about them and their political futures. And then they are like, but if I go against them, next thing you know, I'm probably going to end up with death threats. Cue Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, to be clear, right? So like, they are not just saying, you know what, I'm gonna let the chips fall where they may. And if we all come together and say that we're going to band together and do what's right, then at least maybe the House Republicans can survive. And it's a lot harder when you've got, those that want to commit political violence. When you've got them that are coming after you, it's a lot more difficult if they got to come after everybody, right? Like, versus going after one or two, they're able to kind of like pile up. And so there is always power in numbers. And so I really wish the Republicans would just say, you know what, enough is enough. We're going to band together. We understand that, cutting this healthcare is actually hurting more of our constituents than the Democratic constituents, or deciding that we are not going to participate in extending the tax subsidy for Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. That is going to hurt more of our constituents than the Democrats, right? So we're just going to actually stand up for the people that put us in office instead of doing everything that we can to kiss his ass, right? So, we'll see. But hold on, because the girls text me. Let me see what the girls said. The girls, okay. They didn't say anything. All right. Well, thank you so much. God bless you all. I hope to talk to you soon. For all of you in the Dallas area, December 8th, 4:30 Central. And we will make sure that we stream out so that all of you that follow me on all social media platforms can also get the tea immediately on exactly where it is that I am going as it relates to my political future. So I will see and talk to y'all soon.